So, we are talking about doing grayscale, and we are working with charcoal, right? So what I'm going to do is do a very brief demo, just kind of talking about the materials that you guys are going to be using. Simple enough. I'm going to show you some techniques to use those kind of Kurosawa kind of techniques, talking about light and dark, right? And then I'm going to show you a very brief example of also how to block in. Keep in mind, if you do not grasp it completely today, it is not the end of the world. We're going to talk about this for the entire length of the project, which is going to be about a week's time, okay? Not the end of the world if you don't get it today. I'm just throwing out the idea so that the seed is planted, so that whenever I bring this stuff back up, you guys grasp what the heck I'm talking about, okay? So just kind of hang on for the ride a little bit. Like I said, after we're done here, we will be doing, or we'll go jump over to the computer lab. Okay. Oops. So, what we have is a couple materials. We have some different charcoal pencils, right? Different types of charcoal pencils. We'll talk about those in a second. We have a China marker here. Okay, we'll talk about how to use that in a second. Just a plain old white colored pencil. And then this stuff here, which is called vine charcoal. Okay, vine charcoal. Basically what they do is think about like a barbecue. Right? You have those little charcoal briquettes. Imagine if you were to take that, crumble it up, and put it into a stick form. That's basically what this stuff is. It has a little bit more to it. It's a little more refined. But at the end of the day, you're drawing with charcoal briquettes is what we're doing. Okay? Now, I also like to make sure that I have a paper towel handy because this stuff gets messy very quickly. I have my paper. Whenever you guys need your supplies, everything that we have is going to be in the back cupboard here. We have all of your vine charcoal, right? And instead of setting it out, we leave it in here, and you guys can just go to town with it. We have all of your charcoal pencils, and all of your China markers, okay? Now, question to you guys real quick. Number 2 pencils, the pencils that you guys use all the time, whether they're number 2 or the clicky kind or whatever, what are those made out of? Graphite. Graphite, absolutely. They're not made out of lead, because we don't live in the 1930s. And they're not made out of charcoal, they're made out of graphite. Graphite has kind of a little bit more of a gray shimmer to it, a little more of a metallic-y kind of look to it. You ever do like a lot of writing and get that smudge on the side of your hand? And kind of look at it in the light and it kind of like reflects light. The thing to keep in mind whenever you have just a regular old pencil, like I said, it's going to have a little bit of a, oh, can you see that? There we go. It's going to have a little bit of a shimmer to it. Okay, not a lot, but a little bit. When you put that next to, say, like a China marker, right? Same pressure, same everything, but this thing comes out super dark. Do you see the difference? Okay. So this is what we're talking about. The difference between a flat kind of matte black, matte meaning very flat, but no shine to it, matte, M-A-T-T-E, as opposed to something that has a little bit more gloss to it, gloss. Okay? All right. Get this gum out of my mouth because I'm not a 3rd grader. All right, so here's what we got. So we have our charcoal pencils, right? I just grabbed a handful of them. We have our charcoal pencils, and each color here does something different, okay? But at the end of the day, they're basically all the same. So we have something like this here, which is just a regular drawing pencil. It actually has some charcoal and some graphite to it, so it's going to come out very similar to a regular old, just number 2 pencil, right? Nothing too fancy. It's basically the same principle behind it. It's just got a little bit more charcoal to it. Again, a little bit of a shine. Then we have one notch down. Oops. Same kind of vibe. A little bit of charcoal to it, but this one has a little bit more, a little bit of graphite. This one has a little bit more charcoal in it. So again, still a little bit shinier, but you can tell already it's a little bit darker, a little notch darker. Here, I'll zoom in a second. So kind of a notch darker than what we normally have. Okay? So using these 2 pencils in conjunction with each other can really give you that kind of light and dark play, right? But keep in mind, though, they are going to give you a little bit of a shine. And the reason I mention that is you have to remember that not to mix these with, say, this vine charcoal. If you do, you're going to be in trouble because it will look ugly. It's going to be matte on top of gloss with gloss on top of matte. It's not going to look very good. Okay? So just keep that in mind. If you elect, and it's your choice, you're the artist, if you elect to do something like this with a little more carbon, a little more graphite to it, a little shinier, that's fine, but that's what it's going to end up looking like. Then we have literally a pencil with this stuff put inside of it, right? So it's kind of nice. You don't get as dirty, Okay? And you can tell very quickly, oops, there we go. You can tell very quickly, again, it goes on very dark, very solid, very thick, right? Now this is what we're kind of going for our picture. Depending on how much pressure I add to the pencil, I can either do really dark, or I can do kind of light. And we're going to talk about how to go from dark into light by using our gradient on a kind of shading. Okay? What's nice about charcoal, even in a pencil form, is that it smudges very well, right? And that smudge, although it's going to make you really messy, that smudge is going to be what makes things nice and soft and round and three-dimensional feeling. Whereas something with a little bit more, a little less carbon, a little more graphite doesn't smudge as well. It's just going to make a mess, right? And again, you can see the difference between shiny and not shiny. Okay? All right. So, then we have my favorite and everyone's least favorite. Vine charcoal, or just charcoal sticks in general, are extremely messy. Don't wear anything too nice because you will be getting messy. The bright side, washes off with water, takes about 3 seconds. Okay? But if you become proficient at using this stuff, your drawings are going to look phenomenal. The downfall, again, is you have to get over the fact that you're totally going to get messy. So, vine charcoal, right? Like I said, comes in kind of light little sticks, comes in a little bit thicker. You can get big old sticks. You can break them apart however you see fit. They break simply, okay? So, let's say I was drawing a little sphere. I have an apple over here, if you guys can see it here. My apple, ta-da. All right, so let's say I'm drawing my apple, okay? And I want to obviously show where the light is hitting it. Looks like it's hitting right about here. You can see that little highlight right there. There's a little bit of a cast light over here. And you can actually see the cast shadow. Do you see it right here? Underneath? Okay? So I would start just by doing kind of a circle. Something simple. And again, I'm going kind of light with it. Okay? Figure out, let's see, then I have my stem somewhere around in here, a little bit off-centered. A little bit off-centered. Light's right there, so I'll just kind of make a mark so that I know. Looks like it gets a little bit darker going along. So what I can do is I can actually use the side to fill in some color and space. Make it get a little bit darker as I go. As it gets further down, it gets darker. I can shade a little bit more with my fingers to kind of blend these colors out. Remember that the darker you press, obviously the more charcoal goes on the page, but also remember that keep your hand up a little bit. As you start drawing with the charcoal, it's going to get easier to smudge it because there's more on the paper, more kind of floating on top of the page.